So I kind of realized I kind of fucked up because this is Gorbachev Reich and this is Empire of Japan. So I was thinking I'm just gonna do these when it gets to the J's, and I'll do this when it gets to the Reich. I'll just do this as the first Reich country, and yeah, but I'll do Italy. I guess, yeah, which still doesn't make too much sense, but yeah. Indonesia. Indonesia, with Japanese help, threw off the Dutch during the Second World War, though the feeling of victory against the long disdained foe was sweet. Indonesia was beset by insurgents of all stripes, jockeying for control of the nation. Once again, Japan would come to the rescue, lending their aid and guidance into the fledgling republic and its leader, Sukarno. Independence finally declared in 1950. Indonesia has been seen a torrent of governments all come and go. The sole constant was always been the steady hand of the President Sukarno and his 5 principles, making a decade of peace and prosperity. In spite of all that has been gained, there remains a distant, ever-present roll of thunder that is only coming nearer. Sukarno, the hero of Indonesia, is a figure unlike any other in the history of the nation. Like many other lands in Asia conquered by Western imperialism, Indonesia was not one nation, but rather many squabbling kingdoms and tribes divided by language, faith, and geography. Sukarno, however, saw that those divisions were nothing more than surface level, and Indonesia was a single nation, united by one thing that mattered: spirit. When the Japanese came forward with a vision of Pan-Asianism and liberation from the Western powers, Sukarno saw an opportunity unlike any before to free his country and his people from the Dutch, and he was soon the leading figure in the new Japanese modern free Indonesian government. Sukarno is a beloved figure to his people, and not even the most radical Islamist or rebel would claim that Sukarno, does not care about those he leads. Only that the way he does it is wrong. While Sukarno regime has been loyal to the prosperity sphere for decades, his fierce belief in Indonesian independence and freedom is troubling to the more suspicious in Japan, and it's clear that Sukarno will serve the sphere only as long as he believes the sphere serves him and his nation. And no matter how loved a man is, a dictator will always have forces that resist him. Despite Sukarno's vision, Indonesia is still vastly diverse, and some doubt that even Sukarno can hold a country like that in one piece. It's his job to prove them wrong. Got some the Rahuba system. What is this? Yeah, that's not good. And then some decrees, I guess. With the threat of the terrorist attacks, the horizon. Yeah. Yeah, so basically just a bunch of But Indonesia. And then I think maybe Italy is next, or maybe Irkutsk. I'm not for sure. The Republic of Indonesia. Tyranny, exploitation, and division. Such was the strategy of the Dutch. Keep the people of Asia divided, keep them weak, and most importantly, keep the profits flowing. For 3 centuries, the people who would become Indonesia wriggled and writhed under the boot of imperialism, joining the symphony of the oppressed people of Asia crying out for freedom. Salvation would not come until March of 1942. When the Empire of Japan first landed in Indonesia. To greet them, a man of many names stood on the shores. To his family, Kusano Sochi Ajodojo, to his friends Bung, but to the people of Indonesia, he's a hero. Sukarno's monumental rise to power can mostly attributed to his charisma and unwavering commitment to the people. But his continued control of the nearly 2 decades after the Western devil was subdued lies all in the hands of the Tintara Nacional. With his while his county does battle with, I think his country is supposed to be, rooting out the communists of the PKI and keeping close watch on the ethnic minorities. Sukarno enjoys drinking in Pelsbang while his people scavenge for all they can find. Sukarno's evenings would be incomplete without an exuberant amount of alcohol and gourmet dishes. Some say Bung has lost his path. Some say he's never changed. One thing's for sure. For all of the friends he made, whining and dining makes, or for all the friends whining and dining makes, just as many enemies are made. What Sukarno may soon learn is that the greatest threat is inside of us. And I guess I'll probably just guide democracy, I guess. Nice. So yeah, this is just like almost like somewhat slave labor, not like full slave labor, but just terrible conditions that they get the Japanese gets to use Indonesian workers.
Hata. I will do what I must. It's not going to be popular, no, not in the slightest. But it's the only way to save this country.
Bung, don't you see that this degree is going against what you fought for your whole life? The presidential office rang silent. Sarkuno lifted his eyes from the drafted amendments, and a look of disappointment shone on his face as he turned to his right-hand man. My vision was an independent, free, and secular Indonesia, with or without these bickering parties. It's not as if Sarkuno's criticism of the Indonesian political environment was invalid. And in many ways, he proved time and time again to be right, both right and left. Oh, again to be both right and left. It seemed that as though the political parties could only bicker and not govern, even the PNI, which claimed to support his vision of Indonesia, time and time again. Sukarno and Hatta gave their support to various coalitions, only to collapse over infighting. You've been there yourself, Hatta. Tell me, you've seen the pettiness of these politicians, said Sukarno, as he rises from his seat and circles Hatta. My job was to unite the parties, Bung, not to lord over them like Stashawar or Shashwar or De Jong. Hatta, placing his hands on his shoulders. If it wasn't clear to you, I've already made up my mind. What I'm going to do, what you did 7 years ago, unite the nation. It'll be a democracy, one guided by the spirit of 1945. Sukarno offered his hand for Hatta to shake. Hatta hung his head in a silent resignation. He greeted Sukarno goodbye for the evening and left him alone. A tinge of regret fills the air of the presidential office. In Sukarno's mind, this was all for the good of the nation, his life's work, and his blood, sweat. Nothing could ever come between him and his duty. No politician, no sultan, no governor general, and no political party. The decree passes. So I'm still kind of confused what this is. What did it do? I don't know. Did something. But now we're gonna be fighting back. Date night, prison. Sukarno rifled through his closet. Monochromatic suits, like a deck of playing cards. Eventually he narrowed his choice down to an indistinguishable shades of white. Yeah, come in, vocalized. A sheepish military officer, dressed in a prim, proper uniform, marched and promptly saluted him. The invitation was of a military officer's banquet. Yeah. So we're gonna glance back at two suits on the bed. Unlike before, they seemed completely identical. Bangtang 1 to Tiger 47. We're in position. Copy Bangtang, calling in air support. Red movement's been detected. In the valley. In come the light bombers, agile as that's a little too loud, I think. My bad. Village swallows, swooping low and slow. From the light, arms scatter through the sky. The communist guerrillas exposing their own position as abruptly as the firing started. The firing is one sector, ends with a trail of burning orange. Tiger 47 to Bangtang 1, northern village cleared. Begin infiltration now. Village, there wasn't supposed to be any civilians. Why would? Colonel Swanto mustered enough willpower to not jeopardize the mission. Napalm was a new weapon of the Indonesian jungle. It has been used to devastating effect in the thick jungles of the archipelago, as horrific as what napalm can do to a man. The colonel has his orders: eradicate the communists south of Samarang, and if God wills it, he will obey them. I know if God wills, he will obey them. He steels himself before giving out the radio reply. Copy Tiger, move out. Disoriented by an aerial attacks and being cut off from supplies, the communists put up a spirited but ultimately futile resistance. A white flag was tied to a branch as the commissar approached the Bangtang forward platoon. The colonel fired his sidearm, and there was silence. We're not taking prisoners today. Treason's an offense punishable by death. As he kept up the brave face for his men, why did he shoot him? Was he a traitor? Yes, in his eyes, but in the end, he was also an Indonesian, a Japanese young man, just like he was. In his mind, Colonel Swanto justifies this action as an act of battle, an enemy who needs to be dealt with, until he hears the cries of women and children beyond the communist checkpoint. The Bangtang raider colonel drops to his knees as he walks over the commissar's corpse. His eyes greeted with a ravine of burning village houses, surrendering civilians, and charred corpses. When you stare too long into the abyss. An evening in Jakarta. A dense veil of mist and fog has descended to the streets of Jakarta, coating the streets and roads in a haze of incandescent neon lights and barely glimpsed coconut trees. Through it, though, an engine thrummed, a Mitsubishi automobile bearing an anonymous license plate. The president's luxury car, hand crank side view mirror, the smoke followed, joining a syrupy mix of vapors. You're enjoying that cigar, thick, heavy-set voice boomed from the driver's seat. Sir, very, under the low evening light and a segmented radiance of the street lamps, the president of Indonesia sat in the rear car, dressed in cheap beige suit. A fedora chaperoned his thinning hairline. You always find the finest stuff, don't you, Bacchus? Good name, good man. Your parents must have been proud. I aim only to please, Bacchus said, his tone full of viscous, undicus and satisfaction. Sir, he looked ahead. Their destination was getting closer as the red gleaming letters of Hotel Harris beamed ahead, spattering the gray mist with promises of carnal fulfillment. Bacchus's foot gently pressed on the brakes, and with slow, subdued speech, the ground began to a halt. Bacchus got out first before opening the rear doors. Yeah, the cameras would be upstairs in the president's room. During the Mitsubishi, Bacchus took a fat roll of bills and started counting. The president enters a trap. So I never got the event The Purge. I don't know why. But we're doing a change of plan. Pruning the POLRI. Patrolman Wijaja put down his nightstick, lighting a cigarette as he leaned back into the seat at Polri headquarters. Kebayoran Baru, his commander sergeant, Wiboho, was asleep by the radio. Another night at the barracks. He thought to himself, mindlessly, boring into the newspaper. The headlines were the usual: communist guerrillas in the Javanese highlands, advertisements for the latest Mitsubishi hot rods, President Sukarno's speeches. It seems as though this would be the same old day, in and day out, at least until the sound of several chugging six-tonners, followed by the lead truck's beaming headlights, approach the guard post. The lead truck stops inches from the guard post, and an army officer exits while Sergeant Wiwo is awakened by the noises. What the fuck are you doing, Wijaja? I'd have you. Sergeant, it's the army. They're here to search our barracks. Actually, no, we don't need to search, Sergeant. Awaken your officer, cadets, and ask them to assemble here at the courtyard, unarmed. Who's ordering? Straight from Istana Merdeka. Sergeant Wibowo, seeing the armed lieutenant, rings the alarm 3 times, code blue, assembly as soon as possible. The alarm bells awaken the officer cadets assembling. Grumbling, half asleep, the cadets struggle to stay up, while the army lieutenant orders his men to disembark, armed to the teeth. Pin these 2 wastrels against the wall, now. Lieutenant, what the fu- Too long has the PLRI been infiltrated by communists and subversives. President Sukarno's orders. The cadets roar in protest, but are at an impasse, paralyzed at what's happening. Sergeant, I offer you a choice. Either you choose whether all these cadet officers will die or not, or you yourself will. I will not sacrifice my... A shot rings out, accompanied with Wajaja's pleading, and other shots followed by the panicked running of cadet officers back into the barracks. The lieutenant calls in his aide, storm the barracks, and leave some alive as an example. Damn, they ain't fucking around. Yeah, we're gonna clean out the bureaucrats too, so we're doing a full purge. So this is basically him just saying that he's gonna, there's Australian infiltrators, and also that he's gonna start purging the backwater governors and stuff like that, and bureaucrats first. But it's gonna be a gamble if it works or not. Yep, we're gonna work to purge the government, military from the government, which just my political power shows how much I've been trying to purge and stuff. I'm trying to get him to hate him, but I don't know if that's really will work or not. I'm trying though. Checking up. Colonel Gunawan sat at his desk. Behind him was an Indonesian flag and a conspicuously empty section of the wall. He was reading through the training reports of the last few months. He smiled to himself. The measures he had taken to increase the effectiveness of individual soldiers had paid off. By removing overt propaganda from the curriculum, his men had gained more realistic understanding of warfare as a whole. As he turned the page, he noticed 2 dark-suited men enter through his office door. He looked up confused. He didn't have an appointment scheduled today. "Allow us to introduce ourselves," said the tallest of the 2. He smiled, but his tone was monotone and grave. "We are part of the Special Task Force, assembled by President Sukarno, to ensure all parts of the military are operating smoothly." The shorter one said nothing and glared at Gunawan. "Of course," replied Gunawan, trying not to let his panic stain his voice. "I'm happy to allow any inspection authorized by the President, to proceed without interference. "Very well then," said the tallest one. "Let's not waste any time." He was surprisingly polite and benign at first. He began by going over the officers' organization, recent events, and the budget. As the inspection progressed, however, he became increasingly hostile. He drilled the colonel on the ideological makeup of his officers. He openly denounced his recent training exercise as underestimating the power of the Indonesian military. The shorter man simply glared at Gunawan before leaving halfway through the inspection. "I'm afraid, Colonel Gunawan, that my report to the President will not be positive." The tallest man's hardened gaze dug deep into the trembling colonel's eyes. "Do you understand me?" Colonel Gunawan whimpered and nodded. "Good. Now bring your administration up to code to say they're going to have some changes." There was a knock at the door. "Ah, he's here already. I knew he wouldn't be hard to find." He opened the door and let his partner, who was holding a large portrait of President Sukarno by his side, into the room. The shortest man walked over to the conspicuously empty section of the wall and returned the president to his rightful place. "The greatest enemy is disloyalty." I feel like the greatest loyalty is propaganda. You guys are trying a little too hard. I forgot to read that off, which I did, but I didn't record it. We fully eradicated the SKN, which is the Japanese-owned businesses that are try to put control into our government. So, yeah. but bringing up the next generation, which I just did, changing the curriculum. Hadi Kusyam toyed with his pen as he listened to the annual report on the standing education. It amazed him that people could come up with so many different ways to say a system was broken, and a majority of the nation couldn't read. It was a matter that had long been at the top of the agenda, only to be tabled for later discussion. Because of apathy, just because no one was quite sure what to do. Ulama had been the party to bring the issue back to the limelight, but it was not because of any newfound compassion for children. No, Ulama and Masuyumi stood as the only two parties with the power to do much. Sukarno had banned most other parties 2 years prior. He made it within his power to dismantle any party he found harmful to the continuation of the nation. The two parties could not risk infighting under any circumstance, so the biggest issues would be ironed out at first. Hadi Qasim was relieved to see the teachers step down from the podium, having made their case for what changes need to be made to transform Indonesia into the best nation it can be. Their proposals were simple. They needed more funding and a standardized curriculum. The answer to the first request was simple. They could throw a few extra rupa towards the schools, but the matter of curriculum was surely one to divide the coalition. The representative from Ulama rose to their case, laying out the case of an education system that kept the best of both worlds, maintaining fierce patriotic views while also ensuring the right of the educator to separate religion and education. Hakidism countered the proposal. His party crafted the parties could meet in the middle, both agreeing with the importance of Indonesian identity was paramount to teach the children, but they should also be instilled with the faith of their neighbors. As he returned to the seat, both parties turned to Sukarno, looking for their first call. The school, children restore the values of the nation, yeah. Secular and free. Get education buff, which is pretty nice. I'm about to get this good buff over here too. Restricted child labor, let's go. Quid pro quo. Sukarno glanced down at his fingernails as he leaned against the car. He was far above any meeting. American or not, he glanced up to the blinding Indonesian sun and let its warmth wash over him. He acquiesced to himself that even if he felt like he didn't need to be here, it was just nice to get out of the palace. After an eternity of waiting, the distant roar of the engine shook Sukarno from his near slumber. About damn time, Americans, Sukarno muttered to himself. Always 20 minutes behind the rest of us, the sleek, jet-black motorcade made itself visible as it came over the hill. Sukarno could barely make out the man inside. Was that Arif? Impossible. He knew that he went to America after the war, but the CIA? That seemed a little far-fetched considered Sukarno's history with the boy who had almost gotten himself killed more than once. He was more trouble than he was worth in the Tentara Nasional, but Sukarno felt some obligation to the boy. Arif was one of the ones who had saved Sukarno's life during the PKI's terrorist attack. Sukarno retrieved his sunglasses from his pocket and put them on. Well then, let's see how the boy has done in Hollywood then. Hey Bung, the suited man said, long time no see. Well, that was the point, Sukarno spat. Yeah, I know you don't want me around here, I get it. But look, Bung, we have some footage of you. Sukarno raised his eyebrows. Yes, and I'm the president of Indonesia. I would sure hope people would see me. Arif took a picture of his pocket and handed it to Sukarno. The president's face remained straight, thin line as he stared at the image. His heart skipped a beat, but Arif would never know. Quick, Sukarno recovered composure. So they've sent you to threaten me. You'll need to do better than that, I'm afraid. Sukarno scoffed and opened the door to his car. Stay in America, Arif. Sukarno slammed the door and stared into the engine, the picture laying beside him on the passenger seat. Wait, Bung, damn it! So I wonder what's in that picture. I don't think it's been explained so far from what I've read, so. And this is about welfare. How big of a net? The last discussion was one where if Sukarno did not weigh in their favor, it could possibly be shrugged off. Yeah, so Mark, there's your disdain for the teaching of Marx. I almost said they like the teaching, which that would be very antithesis of what they are. Benedict of communism so I can't remember if there's a reason why they don't like communism so much, or just because it's like they're nationalists, which makes sense. Maybe to the status quo, we owe everything to people.
Um, no employment will trickle down. Conservative. They literally just doesn't really do much. No, we owe the people a balanced budget. Screw them. I'm not trying to give them anything. Nothing. They're just getting screwed over time and time again. Purge again. I really have no idea if this is even how this works, but I'm trying. I'm trying to make the most least stable government possible. Oh, it worked. Hey, they're fully purged now. I don't really know what that does. I think it just gives me less stability. I don't know. Lights, cameras, action. In the far corners of Asia, peak of American luxury, where goddesses dazzled crowds with their encapsulating performances. Nobody but... Okay, so they just really like the thing, yeah. Oh wait, what do I want to be a politician? Something wrong with Sukarno. Oh, they're scared of getting murdered by him. Yeah, I get that. Makes sense, I'd say. But now we're going to expand the refineries. And that is a shitty-ass focus, bro. 1 synthetic factory and 2 oil. Which I guess it's better because I can't create anything. So one thing's better than nothing, I guess. And if you can't say, I had to restart because I didn't want to go down this path. I think it's how to get him to stay in power. Kind of. So I'm going to be trying to not. Shit, the Tokyo Stock Exchange failed. Economic weakness. That ain't good. I feel like the sense of security shouldn't be there, though. They just... Oh, wait, no, so this was a good thing? I always thought that was bad. Am I dumb? That just means, screw you, Kyle. Sorry, since said I was dumb. So I thought that was just showing that they are failing. So they're not collapsing, it's just they're starting a trade war probably with the rest of the world, maybe. Or some country, I'm not for sure what. Oh, so I think... Shit. Is this what this does? Stable market, New Deal, sharing the wealth. I don't know. I think this is from the trade war this branch opens up. Though I'm not... Most completed, not in a crisis, not in a crisis. Has completed the oath, in honor above all else. That is neither of these facts. I'm so confused. Maybe it is in this branch, or maybe it's in this one, I'm not for sure. We will find out. We already, like, broke up the SKN, so it's not even the R's alone. A dispatch from Tokyo. Economic Minister Sayurio. No, that's not how you say it. That's Suirios. No, that's not either. Hands trembled as they handled the latest dispatch from Tokyo. His eyes furtive. His furtive eyes rapidly moved back and forth across the paper. His dry mouth, fragile, muttered unimportant political niceties and mumbled a slur. Damn. The expensively furnished meeting room, caked in a fine layer of dust, was still silent, save for the gentle turning of its ceiling fan. Hada coughed and then began to speak. Their growing economic instability in Japan across the sphere clearly represents opportunity. Saruto interrupted. An opportunity to assert ourselves. You damn right it does, Sakurno stated. Yeah, total nationalization, yeah. Okay. They will shit. That's not the one I wanted. I wanted the R's alone. Okay, well, I'm gonna have to reload. So I went through reloaded, and it was I can't even remember which choice exactly I clicked, but it was like the one that did not sound it at all like it would be the R's alone one. It was a compromise is in order. What the fuck? That would be the not just R's. I think they just messed up when they did that basically. Let's see. R's alone. This could only end badly. President Sukarno pounded his fist on the desk. The sturdy old wood shuddered from the impact. The SKN is our greatest shame. It's a monument of exploitation to our subservience to Tokyo. Now it is time to correct our mistake, and I can hear nothing but pitiful whimpering. Yeah, if I say so, one, nationalization looks good from our perspective, but in the long run, we run risk of economic depression and instability, not to mention the ire of the Japanese. Yep. Basically, yeah, we know this. This is really actually probably going to mess us up in the long run, but This will be good. This will be good. Yeah. Oof. That's pretty bad. That's pretty bad. A date night. Tonight is a date night. Yeah. There's screw pleasure. I mean, wait, no. Pleasure is more important than business, obviously. Obviously. Down with the Japanese. Down with SKN. Waving the Indonesian flags. Jakarta, thousands of people roused to action by the president. Yeah. SKN illegal monopoly. At least that's actually not too bad. Hopefully I didn't need to like actually side with them or something, or do the ours to share and like, I don't know. I hope that's not what it is. I'm just trying to get them not like volunteers. I'm trying to get the relationship between him and Japan bad, so they don't like each other. So they won't help them in the civil war I'm gonna have. Yeah, we're missing a mill now. The GUI's like a little bit messed up though, the update. I had to like go back and update and it just messed stuff up. Quite annoying. Yeah, was a putrid, gross gaggle of grotesque commoners, high off their own fumes, having forgotten the chain of command, having failed to see catastrophic blunders of the PKI and of the popular movement at large. And then the people, that's the shitty guy, this guy, the side of something any rich horror story, thousands of bodies, hearts and minds, dead set on the destruction of your livelihood. Frank Cassius shuddered in the middle of it all. Stop. Freshly erected platform. He'd easily make out the shape of Sukarno, his finger thrusted into the air, chanting something he couldn't quite hear. Perhaps if he opened the window, a rock, jagged and heavy, made contact with his head in an instant, sending him forward, stumbling back, collapsing in a mess of broken glass and blood. Forward! He heard the mahogany door of the entrance thumped. I thought that was like a cacophony type of shit again. Thumped and fell on the floor, overwhelming strength of the people. Yeah, he dead as hell. And a new deal. Is everything alright? Yeah. Hopefully this does not collapse our economy, which it probably should actually, but this is a video game. Palpable rage. When Sukarno saw Mohammed Hatta sit across from him, he would not describe him as a kind or a teacher, as so he commonly was. He was incensed rage. He felt disdain seep out of his eyes, began to fill the room, drowning Sukarno in hate that he could not comprehend. Have I wronged you? Hatta struck first, his tone authoritative. Help me understand. What did I do? Sukarno failed to stifle a smile. How could he? What was he on about? Hatta, I guess you don't understand. You come to my office and plop yourself down in my chair. Oh, in this chair and sulk. Why? You'd ought to know, if you've read my letters, or met me where planned, or even answered the damn phone. Hatta slammed the table and rose from his seat, his nostrils flaring. As he huffed and puffed, Sukarno rose slowly from his seat, pushing back the chair, and placed one hand over the shoulder of his vice president and friend. Hatta, believe me when I say this, I have no idea what you're talking about. I've noticed your absence, but assumed you were simply on vacation. Vacation? Hatta chewed out on the word as he focused his eyes of the man across him. I don't understand, then. Have you gotten a single letter? Sukarno shook his head. Well, I suppose. Hatta gently returned to his seat. Suppose I don't understand. Seeing Hatta's confusion chipped away Sukarno's light-hearted demeanor, genuinely confusing him. I don't know either, he said. His booming voice rendered little more than a weak whisper. The two stared at each other for a long time, speaking a silent language. If Sukarno wasn't subverting Hatta and Hatta wasn't dodging Sukarno, someone else was. Neither knew, and frankly neither wanted to. The thought alone shook them both to their very cores. Welcome back. So they were just like completely confused with each other. Just like, what's going on here? Consequences. The president of Indonesia entered his office in a creased suit, his kopaya draped, setting down two capitals, three-headed coalition, perched on the top of his agenda. Entered the room, dragging her high-heeled shoes through the flaming red and batik pattern rug. The sinuous curves seemed to follow her every step. Lunch is cancelled, sir, she said. Both Mr. Nasir and Habula have claimed to be ill. That was strange. Hand me the phone. His nostrils flaring. smelled of rot. I went to talk to them. He dialed their numbers, long buzzing. Astana descended into chaos. Ministers failed to appear, leaving their departments. Yep, the coalition was off. What did I do wrong? Probably like all those decisions I made you do. That kind of screwed you over, most likely. I would say. It's not really your fault, Sukarno, even though you did some terrible, injustices, but still. Yeah. We're almost there. Let's see. I hope this goes over. Nope. Do you think I care? Go away, military. That's probably part of the reason. Even though they're still favorable to me, so that's not really lessening their opinion. Surprisingly. But yeah. We're about to do the oath. Then I can finally get down to here. I did all of these things. There's no events, there was just all buffs and stuff like that. But we'll see. So this is expanding Sukarno's powers, and he's doing a referendum. Decree number, This is going too far even for you, Hadaspat. The presidential office was empty, save for the two men in a heavy tension. The people will decide that. President Sukarno answered plainly. He was seated at his desk, but seemed to tower over Hada. You are always advocating for more democracy. Now I offer a referendum, and all you do is complain. Hada seethed under his cool composure. I want elections. For leaders, presidents, not dictators, he said, unsheathing each word from his mouth like a blade. If you give yourself even more power, you will undermine everything we've worked for. Sukarno suddenly stood up, placed his hands on the desk, and leaned towards Hada, till their faces were but inches apart. On the contrary, I will secure everything we have worked for. Hada flinched back, and Sukarno, satisfied by the reaction, picked up his hands and turned away. Yeah. Absolutely. Democracy has failed Indonesia. I will not. We got this. He's gonna do a party. It was silver tongue, golden words. It was a grand hotel. Electric bulbs blazed with metal fire, blinding the stars and averting gazes. Tall drinks and small morsels of food, reprehensible in taste, yet respectable in status, danced around the rooms and courtyards on supposedly genuine silver platters. The partygoers' attention. President Sukarno thundered through the crowds. Friends, he began, already drawing applause. I want to thank you all for attending this party, amplifying the president's voice. But I also want to thank you for your support. His one of joviality. I know that's not how you say it. I just can't think of how to say it right now. I'm too tired. To rugged seriousness. He's telling it like it is, went unsaid affirmation among the crowd. Without your support, Indonesia would not be the country it is today, nor would it be the country it deserves to be tomorrow. A gentle warmth filled the audience. We will make Indonesia better. They beamed. Their light hearts were brighter than all orange electric bulbs. So I implore you, President Sukarno concluded, support me in the coming referendum, and you will see with your eyes the great future that lies before us. Can he really deliver this future? Who knows? Pie in the sky. Samaranch is a rich city. Wealth flows in and out of its ports, like a beating heart of capital. The greatest excesses are followed by the worst destitution. However, as the night follows the day, with several arrival of President Sukarno, the poor unfortunate and the unfortunate poors swarm the streets in a flood of poverty. The president rides his blistering white automobile, and it's polished, oh my goodness. Alone and worthwhile, Reform explains, vote yes, he will change. Yeah, we will eat. We got this. Speeches on Swahili and watching the results. I solemnly do swear. Will of the nation. The air wallowed in the dull throbbing heat. Stagnant energy rippled, waiting for it to be unleashed. A mass of people baked in the sun's fiery gaze. The ground beneath them scraped. In the center of the sea, and a podium, Michael Malak, Sukarno funneled. Indonesia will be strong. We are one and indivisible. Together, nothing is impossible. Finally, it was Hada's turn to speak. At the peak of the people's rage, the climax of hatred and arrogant pride, the inferno was snuffed out like a candle. Hada's cool tone and measured words sucked the air out of the fire, depriving it of the necessary oxygen. The crowd was nothing left to fuel their hate, dispersed, leaving the square empty and desolate. Actually, I was fixing your mistake, Bone. Because you suck, Bone. Iberia demands the release of the Timor prisoners. Now just use Japan. They can deal with it. A nation in jubilee. Hada's sullen eyes vacantly observed the television before him. A young woman, proudly displaying the hallmark of the TVRI, flashed a beautiful, genuine smile into the camera. With the resounding triumph, the mandate of Sukarno grows more substantial. Yeah, thunderous applause. Found himself. He felt rough jostle against his shoulder. Hada looked up, the grinning face of the president. Where is your excitement, Hada? We won. Yeah, this isn't right, Bung. None of this is how it's supposed to be. Yep. The referendum passed. He's now like even more of a dictator. So I feel like it should be starting off as like authoritarian democracy, then this makes it go to full fascism or something like that. Or at least despotism to fascism, I don't know. To my good friend. Sukarno held the cigar between his fingers, absentmindedly toying with the premium product. He took a drag and gazed out of the window, overlooking the ocean. Everyone needed a break now and then. And Sukarno was no different. For as much as he enjoyed it all, the lucrative drinks, the foreign women, the parties stretching into the early hours of the morning, Sukarno was still the president. No, he was greater than that. He was Indonesia. He was the spirit of a freshly united people, taken manifest to defend the archipelago from the outside invaders. He swiveled the leather chair on his desk. Even the spirits must do work. He flipped through the ocean of papers on his desk. Junk, keep. Organized his letters. Hada usually was the one to process the mail into important and not important. Where is Hada? He hadn't been here in the morning briefing. Sukarno shrugged it off. He was probably just... What was that? Sukarno's attention was drawn away to a letter. It's a message clear from the red ink in front. Sukarno, my good friend. Confused, Sukarno quickly tore open the envelope. The message inside was quick and concise. Bung, I fear you have wandered too deep into the forest of power, and have lost your way. I've made my intentions clear from the beginning, in Indonesia to challenge the petty monarchs and to stand far above the warlords of China. I've stood for one thing, Bung, since day one, a free Indonesia. From when I took up arms against the colonists to the battles in your office, I attempted to make peace, to work with you, because you are my friend, Sukarno. But I no longer can be blinded by friendship. I cannot take part in the government any longer. Effective immediately, I will no longer be fulfilling the roles of my office. At the end of it all, a signature confirmed Sukarno's worst fear. Hada had left. Get Hada on the phone now. Oh, here's another thing. Seize the traitor? Really? Bro, come on. The national address, static, all-encompassing, was and pervasive. Nowhere in the entire complex could one find a single moment of rest. In the buzzing of the radio, Sukarno had insisted, or rather demanded, the PA system had been tuned to the frequency 93.5, the station of the rebellion. Hada's abrupt betrayal and obviously affected the president. The lavish parties spilling over with women and booze, those were not his friends, the Japanese businessmen he rubbed shoulders with, all superficial. All it took was one person to be ripped away from him to challenge his entire perception of life. To all those yearning for a free Indonesia, the simple phrase ripped Sukarno away from his thoughts. Hada's voice, as much as Sukarno was relieved to hear, alarmed, his message did not seem like the friendly reconciliation he expected. I speak as someone who has seen the inner workings of Sukarno's government, a government that rose to power by using the people as stepping stones. Has Sukarno lifted you up? Have you enjoyed the amenities of the rest of the world? No. Every rupa made is funneled back into the state, to the pocket of Sukarno. While you live in disease-infested shacks, he dines with the very men who pillaged this country 2 decades back. Sukarno would have you believe that there exists only two options, the continuation of the regime, or the destruction of Indonesia, as we know it. My friends, Indonesia has, we know, it deserves to die. This is not the nation promised to you, nor the one you deserve. I present an alternative, an opportunity to tear this nation down from the foundation and build a new one from its ashes, a free republic that is the envy of Asia, not the stain. As quickly as he appeared, Hada was gone. Sukarno was left with the static once again. He stared into the radio, hoping to find the face of Hada, his friend, only static. If Hada had harbored these feelings from the beginning, perhaps Saruto was not scheming. Maybe Hada was the enemy. Sukarno refused to touch the dial, the static continuing to reverberate out of the speakers, but it could not be drowned out the president's own thoughts. The broadcast is a sham, since they're all redistribution. Oh, now I'm understanding why he says seize the traitor. Yeah. Well, shit, this is, I guess, their fault. Taking center stage, Hada adjusted his songkak. The crowd before him, less than he was used to. Hada stood alongside Bung during many of his speeches. He felt the heat radiating from thousands of bodies as Sukarno spoke to the power of the Almighty God, laid the case for a just civilized humanity, placed the unity of Indonesia on a pedestal, pledged this citizenry leadership, form a collective wisdom, and assured the people that all would enjoy social equality from the state. In reality, Pancasila was nothing more than a wasted breath. Sukarno would fill none of his obligations. It was all folly. Yeah, that would set them apart, the execution. Oppressed people of Indonesia, your presence here means something monumental today. We show that Sukarno and the Jakarta clique do not hold full control of the power of the people. You have come here for one simple reason, to see change brought to Indonesia. You may be surprised to learn the standing shoulder to shoulder with you. The left and the right are in attendance today. I point this out for a simple reason. You do not even notice the factionalism that Sukarno decries is what he preaches to the people as well. What Indonesia needs is democracy that responds to the will of the people solely, which means hearing all sides, not just Masyumi and Ulama. It is because so many have been shut out of the current government that myself and our allies from across the spectrum have come together to form a new one prepared to bring Indonesia on par with the modern world, not leaving it to dust with authoritarian stereotype of Asia. Hada grinned, the applause. There's a pit in his stomach. He was not a president. He was a collection of different people all coming together in harmony. He could not come back from this. The sight eased his fears. All of this was worth fighting for. A rival government, preposterous. Now we got this. Yeah, he shuts out the opposition, basically, on this one. Yes, this is saying that, like, wait, shit. I don't know if I want to do that, actually. But, yeah. There's tens of thousands of protesters. So that was like, they tried to find him and they thought they were about to have him. Saruto pulled back the accelerator, letting out a thunderous screech from his motorbike. Yeah, Jakarta, this is Jakarta. Yeah, they can't find him. And now we're gonna have to lock down Jakarta. I hope this sends it into, like, freedom or something. Sukarno, extravagant. We need peace. The general smiled softly. The bullets don't care for the last words. Damn, okay, yeah. They're fucking around. They're not fucking around, I mean. But we gotta live a united front. Enough was enough. Sukarno had it with the manipulation. He was not some pawn in their game. Indonesia was not some pawn in their game. There was no game. Sukarno ripped the board out from the under the players. His grand project was not a playground for the aspiring generals or conniving politicians. This was a nation. God damn it. It was the time his subordinates started acting like it. Sukarno briskly hustled through the corridors of the assembly. He had an act of his own. Game over, Hada. Your little adventure is over. The legislators skimmed over the act before them while Sukarno orated from the top of the podium, casting spells with his arms. He shouted Makurta. He harkened back to the days of the Dutch. He spanned the tale of a freshly united nation, doomed to fall back into the same unorganized, squabbling tribes and kingdoms that had made them easy pickings for the imperialists. He bled the story of Indonesia. Out of every pore of his body not only oozed unrivaled nationalism, but acute observer could pick up the desperation in his voice. As Indonesia deflated before the representatives, having no more left to give, he mustered all that was left in him to one last cry, demanding the approval of the act before them. Sukarno's labored breathing was the only sound in the assembly. In the quiet, Sukarno met the eyes of his friends, pleading for them to put the nation above politics, although it seemed like the day they sat in silence for centuries. Eventually, it was time for a decision. Sukarno watched anxiously as part of the room rose in affirmation, and the other part of negation. It was slim, few abstaining. He couldn't tell from looking, but he was hopeful. He had to be there. There was nothing left to do. Sukarno resolved to stay stoic as results trickled in, but the writing was on the wall. Sukarno's silver tongue could not save him from this time. If they want conflict at home, so be it. We pervert independence with poverty to servitude with plenty. Pacific plight. The Civil War begins. Yes, this is just picking. Justice for the people! If this has a fun history. Am I Hada? Yep, Muhammad Hada. So yeah, this is pretty cool. We'll be saving this country. Got this. I do want to check. Do they have like an actual? Do we not have one? No, they have. It looks a little more fleshed out, but for this video, I'd rather just do this, to be honest. I'm gonna try to time lapse the Civil War, see if I can figure that out in editing. So you'll see a super sped up version of this. That was actually much easier than I thought it would be. Though, I'm pretty sure we have to go through this whole tree. Maybe I was supposed to like do the other path and it was a little bit harder, but I don't know. I want to do this path. Which this thing is still, I don't know. It's weird. I don't know if it's glitched or not, but we got this. Here it is. Indonesia was at peace. The last holdouts thundered in the soft rain. The remaining generals formulated hopeless counterattacks, and final desperate pleas for negotiated settlements were made, but Indonesia was at peace. Oh shit. Okay. gruesome butcher's knife divided the nation. Brother fought brother, father killed son, friend turned on friend. It was a battle of armies as much as it was personalities. He knew this sad reality better. No one knew this sad reality better than Hatta. He had hoped to save Sukarno. He couldn't, and he wouldn't pardon his crime, but at least he could stay his execution. For all his faults, his terrible bloody faults, he was still a friend. He was still the man who had built Indonesia. He had still done what he thought was right. He was still Bung. The PKI militants, drunk on their violent mob justice, didn't give him the chance. They didn't see Bung. They saw a tyrant, reduced his identity to his crimes, and strung him up accordingly. Sukarno was gone. Indonesia remained. As Hatta prepared to greet the crowds, to meet with the radical leaders of parallel revolutions, and to build a new, different Indonesia, he He couldn't help but imagine Sukarno standing beside him, advising him, joking with him, even arguing with him. As Hatta stepped uncertain into the future, Sukarno's phantom followed him like a shadow, coloring the whole of Indonesia's perfect gray for many years to come. We bleed and die as blind men, seeing that there is nothing to fight for. Laugh. Oh, so it really was just the end. Okay. Well, I feel like I should have tried to draw that out a little longer or something. I don't know. But nice. Free Indonesia. Thank you for watching, even though this was a little bit of a... I don't know if it's really shorter overall, but it feels a little shorter. Hatta remains victorious. Well, see you next time. Probably gonna start recording the next video, the beginning of it, after this, but we will see.